a discovery illuminating Turkish history. Yet another groundbreaking discovery has been made in Kazakhstan that has the potential to reshape Turkish history. For the first time in Turkish history, a buckle depicting the face of a Gokturk Khagan has been uncovered. Excavations in Kazakhstan reveal the discovery of approximately 1,500-year-old gold buckles featuring the depiction of the Gokturk Khagan's face. This significant finding took place at the Eleke Sazi Gokturk Cemetery in East Kazakhstan. Archaeologists unearthed 2 gold ornamental items in this tomb, containing the oldest known depictions of the Gokturk's great Khan or Khagan. This gold buckle includes a depiction of the Gokturk Khagan seated on the throne, wearing a crown on his head and holding an antler cup in his hand. This discovery holds immense importance as an enduring heritage identified with Turkish peoples. Similarities exist between the monumental tomb and findings in other complexes in the Orkhon Valley, especially with Shiveet Ulan in Mongolia. This historical finding can be considered a significant step in shedding light on the Gokturk period and Turkish history. The Eleke Sazi Gokturk Cemetery is a valley located within the Tarbagate district of East Kazakhstan. In this valley, more than 300 kurgans, dating from the 9th century BC to the 7th century AD, have been identified. However, the most remarkable discovery is the monumental cult complex of the Western Gokturk Khaganate. Eleke Sazi is the first and only monumental tomb complex of the Turkish Khaganate found outside Mongolia. Excavations in 2019 provided important information about the architectural plan of the Turkish Khaganate monumental complex. The complex includes a barrack or temple, a ceremonial road, and additional structures in the eastern part. Additionally, a statue made of granite from the same complex, bearing all the characteristics of the Turkish Khagan, is of great importance. Kazakh archaeologist Professor Dr. Zainallah Samashev, who conducted the excavations and identified the findings, announced the discovery of a cult complex and new artifacts from the Western Gokturk period in Kazakhstan. Among these items, a belt buckle depicting the face of a Gokturk Khagan for the first time in history was found. During the 2021 excavations in the burial area of the Eleke Sazi Khaganate complex, personal belongings of Taijin, who belonged to the Gokturk lineage and was tasked with governing the Anoke region on behalf of the Turkish Khagan in Suyab, were found. Among these items, a depiction of a Gokturk Khagan was found for the first time in history. The structural and formal similarities of the complex indicate that it might have been built during the Second Gokturk state period. Professor Dr. Zainallah Samashev emphasized that this complex, dating back to the Gokturk period, plays a special role in the history of Turkish peoples, as it is the first time such a complex has been identified. He added the following to his remarks.
Of course, this center was built in memory of one of the Western Gokturk Khans. Subsequently, this place would turn into a great commemoration center for the people left behind by the Khan, and a large mausoleum would be built here. We see such a complex for the first time at the foot of the Tarbagate Mountains in the Altai region of Kazakhstan. Certainly, this complex is of great importance to the Turkic world in terms of architectural style, burial ceremonies, recovered artifacts, and religious belief culture. When looking at the Gokturk burial ceremonies, it was a duty to place personal belongings and weapons behind the deceased. Among the recovered objects was a belt buckle made of gold plates. On this buckle, there is a depiction of the Gokturk Khan, seated on his throne, wearing a crown and holding a cup in his hand.
Highlighting that the recovered ornamentation is an identified eternal heritage belonging to the Turkic peoples, Professor Dr. Samashev emphasized the significance of the depiction in this regard, stating that it is quite important for shedding light on all the major political events that occurred in the Western Gokturk state, including the Gokturk complex and a token belonging to a Khan. He said the following.
Of course, in our studies on the findings, we are reconstructing all the burial ceremonies performed within the complex. The similarities between the mausoleum and findings with other complexes in the Orkhon Valley are evident. Especially, there are closer resemblances to those in Shiveet Ulan in Mongolia, similar to the tombs of Kultajan and Bilge Khan.
Associate Professor Dr. Mehmet Kutlu, head of the Department of Art History at Yozgat Bozok University, provided the following information about the architectural structure of the Gokturk complex.
Even before excavation, It is understood that the mausoleum complex consists of two main sections due to the partially visible courtyard walls and architectural features. Additionally, dozens of small and medium-sized tumuli are found adjacent to or near the courtyard walls that delineate the boundaries of the mausoleum complex. It is presumed that these tumuli were built in later periods than the mausoleum complex and, besides being an expression of respect and love for the Khan or Yabgu who owned the mausoleum complex, they belonged to individuals with kinship and closeness. The two main sections of the mausoleum complex are surrounded by two separate courtyard walls, but it is observed that they share a common wall where the two sections meet. According to the boundaries defined by the courtyard walls constructed from a mixture of clay soil and gravel, the mausoleum complex measures approximately 90 by 50.90 meters.
Dr. Serhan Sinner, in his assessment, has said the following.
The emergence of the monument complex in Eleke Sazi reflects certain ethno-socio-cultural processes connected to the spiritual and ideological, religious and philosophical orientations, and multidimensional interactions in the Kazakh steppes, intertwined with the historical entry of ancient Turks onto the stage of Asia.
During surface surveys conducted prior to excavation, a sculpture depicting a member of the Gokturk dynasty, which Professor Dr. Zainallah Samashev evaluated as potentially located in the altar section of the Eleke Sazi mausoleum ruins, was discovered. One of the most important bases for dating the Eleke Sazi mausoleum to the Gokturk period is the said granite sculpture, the head of which is broken. The granite sculpture depicting a Gokturk Khan or Yabgu seated cross-legged was placed under protection at the National Museum in Astana. Among the findings, the most striking is a pair of decorated gold plates, believed to be belt buckles, depicting a Khan seated on his throne and attended by courtiers. For the first time in history, a depiction of a Gokturk Khan has been found. It is known that wearing a golden belt was a symbol of authority in ancient Turkic states. Dr. Serhan Sinner says that in the discernible images, the Gokturk Khan is depicted as having long hair and being approximately 30 to 35 years old.
In the ornamentation composition, the Khan is depicted in the traditional Turkic seated position, with a crown resembling a triangular halo on his head. In the imagery of the belt buckle decoration, the throne on which the Khan is seated and the attendants serving him are also clearly visible. The flowers surrounding the throne are believed to be lotus flowers, commonly used in Buddhist art.
Professor Dr. Zainallah Samashev described the significance of the belt buckle depicting the face of the Gokturk Khan for the Turkic world with the following words.
During surface surveys conducted before excavation, a sculpture depicting a member of the Gokturk dynasty, which Professor Dr. Zainallah Samashev evaluated as potentially located in the altar section of the Eleke Sazi mausoleum ruins, was discovered. One of the most important bases for dating the Eleke Sazi mausoleum to the Gokturk period is the said granite sculpture, the head of which is broken. The granite sculpture depicting a Gokturk Khan or Yabgu seated cross-legged was placed under protection at the National Museum in Astana. Among the findings, the most striking is a pair of decorated gold plates, believed to be belt buckles, depicting a Khan seated on his throne and attended by courtiers. For the first time in history, a depiction of a Gokturk Khan has been found. It is known that wearing a golden belt was a symbol of authority in ancient Turkic states. Dr. Serhan Sinner says that in the discernible images, the Gokturk Khan is depicted as having long hair and being approximately 30 to 35 years old. The importance of this belt buckle lies in its composition, which depicts a Gokturk emperor seated on a throne with a crown on his head. Although there are written sources about the accession ceremonies in the Gokturk period, archaeological findings had not been identified until today. In this respect, the depiction on the belt buckle found in Eleke Sazi provides concrete evidence about how accession ceremonies were conducted. In the composition found, there are motifs of two horses facing east and west on the front of the throne where the Khan sits. Thus, the composition created gives a unique presentation among steppe empires. Another significance of the composition is that it represents scenes of Turkish Khans receiving envoys from neighboring states. In the belt buckle, two individuals kneeling in front of the Khan present him with golden plates. Such ceremonial plates are frequently encountered in Turkish ethnography. The presentation depicted represents political treaties made by the Gokturk Khan with neighboring countries or valuable gifts sent. In this regard, the ceremony image presented to the Khan carries a feature symbolizing the political power of the ruler. In historical sources, there is information about who the Khans of the Gokturk Empire were in the late 8th century. Our first guess is the possibility that the images in the depiction belong to one of the Khans of this period. Our second guess is the possibility that the gold belt buckle found belonged to a Tuduan affiliated with the Khan of Otukhan or Suyab, the center of the Western Gokturk Khanate, and may have been given as a gift to the ruler's son as a symbol of authority. Furthermore, considering that this belt buckle is an object indicating membership of the Asina lineage, it emerges the possibility that the depicted Khan image belongs to Buman or Istami Khan, the founders of the Gokturk Empire. Especially the presence of the labyrinth providing passage to the reception room at the entrance of the complex is the most distinguishing feature that sets the Eleke Sazi complex apart from the complex in Shiveet Ulan. During religious ceremonies held here, influential Gokturk nobles would crawl through this labyrinth on their knees upon entry to the complex. Subsequently, they would pass through the continuously burning ring of fire in the reception room to purify themselves from evil spirits before proceeding to the sanctuary where the Khan's remains were located. During excavations, it is observed that the altar area has a pentagonal shape. A large stone sculpture depicting the Khan was found here. Subsequently, access to the interior of the burial chamber was provided through step stairs. Inside the complex, the fire pit where cremation was performed, gold plates adorned with rose motifs, bronze and metal stirrups, a ceremonial plate, and a bronze candlestick, arrowheads, and swords provide important clues about the cultural life of the Gokturk period. The height of the labyrinth walls, their width, and the number of horizontal stacked panels reached a person's waist level. The width of the labyrinth was designed only for one person to pass, and there appears to be no canopy or ceiling on it.
Completing his statement, Professor Dr. Zainallah Samashev, who also conducted excavations from the Gokturk period in Mongolia, emphasizes the significance of the Western Gokturk period in Turkish history with the following words.
After the split of the unified Gokturk Khaganate, a state called the Great Turkish Khaganate was established in the Western Turkestan region. This political union included not only steppe tribes but also settled communities in the Sogd and Khwarezm regions. In this sense, the Western Gokturk state became a politically rich union in terms of cultural and socio-economic aspects. During the Western Gokturk period, coinage began to be minted, and the political roles of women started to emerge.
These historical findings can be considered as an important step shedding light on the Gokturk period and Turkish history. Furthermore, when looking at the subject in general, the importance of such research becomes even more apparent. Turkish sources obtained from excavations in Central Asia provide significant information for better understanding Turkish history and revealing the cultural heritage in this region. In excavations carried out in various parts of Central Asia since the Gokturk Khaganate period, written and archaeological documents have been unearthed. Particularly, the Orkhon inscriptions, 720 to 735 AD, written in the Gokturk alphabet, are the earliest known written documents in Turkish history. These inscriptions contain important information about the Gokturk state-building process, the names of their rulers, and state policies. Other excavations in Central Asia, such as the settlements like Alankoba Hoyuk near Lake Hovsgol in the Altai Mountains and the Noyanyul excavations in Mongolia, shed light on the nomadic lifestyle and cultural development of the Turks. Ancient Turkic graves unearthed in these excavations carry traces of traditional Turkic culture and provide a historical window through the items left beside the deceased. These Central Asian sources contribute to the formation of a more comprehensive understanding of Turkish history by providing information on various aspects such as the origins of the Turks, their social structures, religious beliefs, and artistic expressions.